Hello, and today I'd like to talk about September, because September seems a long time ago, and that was when Classic all started for me. And it wasn't too long before that I was actually talking about whether I was going to play Classic or whether I was going to play Retail, and this is what I was saying back then. For me personally, I'm going to be sticking mainly with BFA because there's still so much I want to do, but I will be checking out Classic and having a look and reminiscing over the good old times. I'll focus on BFA because it's what I love playing at the moment, and then I'll have a look into doing Classic sort of every now and again. So that's going to be the one thing that I am very intrigued about, is the whole making gold aspect in Classic. See what kind of the old techniques work, what kind of markets we can do with the new tools that we have now. I'm going to try and remain open and just see what happens. People will go over, they'll check Classic out, and then those that like Classic will stay in Classic, I'm sure, and then those that prefer the BFA experience will carry on in that, and there will be people that do both. I will be playing Classic. The main thing I'm going to be doing is just dipping into it from time to time. I'm not going to be focusing on it, so it'll be something that I do after I've done all the things I've done in the main game, really. And just play it casually. Exactly, that's my state on it. I won't go all in, but at the same time, I'm intrigued. I'd like to reminisce, and I'd like to see what the markets are like in that. It's going to be new and it's going to be different, and it's exciting because it's still World of Warcraft. Now, obviously, those that are following me know that I have pretty much been playing exclusively Classic since it released, and I've been having a whale of a time. I haven't had much time to play compared to many others, so I'm still only level 27. I've spent a lot of time just dabbling with the auction house, working things out, and rediscovering my love for the old game that I started with all those years ago. So now, whilst I've been doing that, I have been logging into Retail. It is literally just to go on, repost my auctions, and then log off again. That's pretty much been the main thing I've done. And there are even some days where I actually forgot to repost my auctions and they were left in my mailbox for a day or two. I haven't done much shopping, I haven't done much restocking of things. I did it a few times just on the enchants and things like that. But on the whole, I've just been running my stock low. So I thought now would be a good time to go back and have a look at September to see what kind of money I made with minimal effort. This was literally me reposting as quickly as possible and then carrying on with my day. So as always, I have my spreadsheets. I'll go through all the things that have sold with minimal input from me, and we'll just have a look at how my professions are sitting in BFA at the moment. So I'll start with tailoring, and as you can see, the usual things ticking through, the odd sort of shirts, pants, bags, a few hexweave bags. One thing that has been doing quite well is the Notorious gear, for reasonable prices too, so those are working quite nicely. Now I imagine these will continue to sell quite well up until 8.3 releases, and then we'll get a new set. So that will be interesting. And then moving down, I have a few different things: red linen robe, Seabreeze saddle blanket, and a couple more shirts. So the grand total is not particularly high, 76,000. But then you look at my expenditure, and that's quite minimal. I bought a few Shalderai silk. Obviously, stringy loins and world flowers should be in my cooking section, but it's only a few hundred gold, so I'll ignore that for now. Gorgon flytrap, though, I used them with my hexweave bags. So my tailoring profit is pretty much pure profit of 73,000. So moving on to my cooking, which is always a bit hit and miss. I had a few good sales of my stock of Bountiful Captain's Feast, 64,000 there. Nothing too major, some biltong there for 11,000, and Mechtail's Big Neck for 5,000, so another 92,000 there. That's actually more than my tailoring at the moment. I probably have some expenditure though, if you include the couple of hundred gold from tailoring as well. Looking at this, we did buy a little bit of red tail loach, rubbery flank for 11,000, giving us a cooking profit of 80,000. So each of these professions seem to be able to take care of themselves as long as you've got a decent amount of stock in reserve, which I try to do in most cases. I always overbuy when I find it cheap, and we're seeing the results of that now without me having to invest too much in extra stock. Obviously now my stocks have run dry, so it's going to be interesting next month. So moving on to leatherworking, we have Coarse Leather, Drums of Fury, and Notorious. Both leather and mail are doing very well here. We've got a few different bits and pieces of everything, and some shimmer scale other bits and pieces, with 132 total there, giving me a actual zero expenditure on leatherworking. So all the things that I bought with leatherworking I've moved into my enchanting section, because most of that has gone into the bracer shuffle. So that's pretty much pure profit for leatherworking of 132,000. which is better than tailoring at the moment, so that's really nice. And then Alchemy. Now if we remember, Alchemy I had a big investment over the previous few months, and I was starting to see some returns just before Classic came out. And I haven't had many procs of the Silas Sphere in that time out. To be honest, I haven't really been looking out for it. So this is all my existing stock that I've just been using up and making sales from. And you can see here 208,000 in lots of decent potion sales. So I've got a feeling this is going to work really well if I keep this ticking through. Living Steel has done very well there. That's El Morty, my Death Knight, so he's added to the coffers as well, as with River's Heart and Sun's Radiance. But the other stuff is mainly Awakening, my main druid, so he's got a good proportion of those sales of 208,000. I imagine I've got a few expenditure yeses, just mainly in Anchorweed and Zenithid, so using up my stock of those, 32,000, giving me a nice profit of 176,000. But I think the time has come with Alchemy that I really need a Silas proc, and I really need to restock on all of these potions because I'm not selling any of them at the moment because I've run out. So going on to my usual big one, Enchanting, and again it hasn't disappointed. The prices in general have drifted down slightly. You've got these just hovering over 1,000 for the main ones, but good volumes though on the Accord of Critical Strike and Haste there. A couple of really good sales on Binding of Strength Cloak at 8,000 each. That's very nice. And then Force Multipliers doing well. Deadly Navigation, even though that's relatively cheap now at 708, still got good volumes. And we've got Quick Navigation and Machinist Brilliance both doing well still. So the enchants I think are going to do very well. I've also started trying to sell my Umbra Shards in a single stack of 200 whenever I can. So I managed to shift one stack of 200, which is a nice 25,000. I've got so much Umbra Shards now, I don't know what to do with them. So selling them like this occasionally is one of my options. The other options is converting them into wands, but I haven't got to that stage yet because it's less efficient. So moving on to my costs, there's going to be a fair amount here in tie spray linen. There's 100,000 in 17,000 tie spray linen, another 4,500 in nylon thread, and then I've been buying my gloom dust rather than using the disenchanting of the braces simply because it's a lot more convenient. So an average price there of 8 gold 20. And there does seem to be a reset of the market here that I must have done at some point. I don't remember doing that, but that's another 13,000 cost, giving me a grand total of expenditure of 146,000, which gives me an enchanting profit of 195,000. That's the best one so far. Miscellaneous, we've only really sold a mana potion injector schematic, which you had hanging around for 7,800, and then Mistral profit is the same there. So my grand total for September is actually a very reasonable 667,000. That is coming up for 3 tokens in the month for extremely minimal effort. Now a lot of that effort has actually been front loaded from previous months with the stock that I've had accrued. Now with that stock depleted, I've got a feeling my next month is going to be a lot less profitable unless I start getting back into retail a little bit more and start doing some more shuffles and restocking my markets, which I've started doing, so hopefully I can claw back some profit in October. I'm hoping still to have a target of at least 1 or 2 tokens a month, just to keep myself level whilst I continue with Classic. If we look at my summary for the year, we can see all the different professions doing quite well. We have a profit in actually all of them for 1 month, which is, I think, the first time I've ever had that. Actually, no, we had it in April there, but we didn't have Alchemy at that time. Now we have Alchemy. We can see that adding more professions in really helps spread the balance out. And eventually I'll get all the professions. That's the next goal, obviously. So then looking at my handy little graph, you can actually see the professions are fairly level. There's no one standout profession. Enchanting, Leatherworking and Alchemy doing particularly well out of these. So on average, we're looking at the high end of my usual gold making. And we've got a total now of 5.5 million for the year so far. So we could have bought a Longboy in that time. Actually, in real cash, I've probably more got like something like 2.5 million. I spent at least a couple of million on WoW tokens. I've renewed my subscription for another 6 months. I bought the Warcraft 3 pre-order, the deluxe edition, so I've made good use of my gold so far. And then there's things in the future to come, like the virtual ticket and maybe a second account as well. I'd like to fund being able to do both Classic and Retail at the same time. That would be quite nice. So where does that leave me with WoW and which version I'm playing? Now, I still play both. The main focus at the moment on the streams has been leveling in Classic. I'd still like to get to that target of level 35 next. It's been really compelling at the moment, just being able to log on, make some significant progress in whatever time I have, and then logging off again, knowing that I've added to that XP bar and my character's feeling more and more powerful. The gold is trickling in at the moment. I won't focus on it again until I get to 35, and then I can get my professions up to 300. But until then, I'm having an absolute blast having a run through the zones. I'm using a combination of the paid for Zygor guide and Questy, the questing add-on, to help navigate my way through the quests and the leveling zones. I'm not sponsored by Zygor guide or anything, but it's been really handy for me as a casual player, just wanting to remember what I'm doing, where I'm going, and have something just gently prod me in that direction. It's a bit like the storyline in BFA, with that guiding you through the zones, whereas this time I'm actually using an add-on and it's less story focused. But it's still incredibly enjoyable for me at the moment, which is why I'm focusing most of my time on Classic. But that said, 8.3 is around the corner. Really looking forward to the auction house changes, so there's a lot of stuff coming. The professions are going to get a little bit of an upgrade as well with some new bits and pieces. What I'd really like to do in that respect is get myself another 2 characters. I've still got my 110 boost that I can use to get another 2 professions. I'm thinking jewel crafting and inscription, and then I'd like another character to be able to do engineering and blacksmithing. And that way I've got a spread of all the professions. I can make groups for them all, and I can play about with each one and see which one is profitable at certain points of the expansion. I'd certainly like to be ready for when the next expansion comes out to have all these characters in place, so I will be coming back to Classic. Freudian slip. So I will be coming back to retail more, rest assured, and I'd like to split my time probably equally between the two. Ultimately, in Classic, I'd like to get myself up to 60 and do some dungeons, like to try some healing and things like that. There's just so much to do and so little time. So I hope you're really enjoying the journey with me. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you all for your company on the stream and all your lovely comments on YouTube. I really do appreciate them. So from myself, Classic Samadan and Retail Samadan, I hope you're having fun in whichever version you're playing, and I look forward to seeing you in Azeroth. Until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.